Hello and welcome to December Days. This is our episode for the 1st of December, our first proper episode. Welcome, I'm Wayne Clarke, pastor at Trinity Baptist Church in Gorton in Manchester, and I'll be popping up each day in your social media feed, however you're following this, with a short video as a sort of video lockdown advent calendar. In the first half of December, we're going to be looking at some verses in the Old Testament, the first part of the Bible, that lead up to the coming of Jesus at Christmas, and then we'll go into the New Testament. Each day we'll have a word for the day, and our word for this day, our first word, is the word sign. This word speaks to us of the promises of God, and it comes from Isaiah chapter 7, verses 14 to 16. Let me read these verses to you as they come up on the screen. The Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. He will be eating curds and honey when he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right. For before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. The prophet Isaiah is speaking God's word in the year about 735 BC. King Ahaz and the nation of Judah, centered on Jerusalem, are threatened by enemies all around. And Ahaz thinks his only hope is surrendering to the enemy forces. Pick a side and surrender to them. But Isaiah says no. God's prophet says, God has a bigger vision. He says, why not trust in him? Put your trust in God to look after us. So he says to the king, don't panic, stand firm, trust in God. He is with you. He says, God's going to send us a sign that this besieging from the nations won't last forever, that it's only temporary. And the sign is this. It's not going to be a roar of thunder or a host of angels or the cavalry coming over the hill. It's simply going to be a young woman getting pregnant and having a baby. This baby will be the sign. And before the baby's very old, your enemies will have vanished from the scene. They will no longer be a threat to you. Tomorrow, I want to look at the name of this baby and how this story was taken as pointing at Jesus. But today, let's stay with Isaiah and Ahaz and how this story applies to us. Because when we feel besieged, as Ahaz was, God is still with us. For Ahaz, the fulfillment of the simple sign of a baby was a confirmation that God was with him, that these troubles would pass. The birth of a helpless baby was an acted parable of the confidence Ahaz could have in God. That to wait out these troubles, having confidence in God, was all that Ahaz needed to do, trusting in his Lord. And he was promised that if he trusted and if he waited, God would deal with his enemies. That was the word for his time. When you feel besieged on every side, you can draw on the promises of God, and God will be with you. Our strength is not in what we have or in our own might, if we have any. Our strength is in the one we can depend upon. We can trust in God through these difficult times. This is December Days from me, Wayne Clarke. We'll have more from Isaiah chapter 7 tomorrow.